So, is it just me who is a little skeptical about some of these things? So, for instance, you might see there's the Epiphone, Joe Bonamassa, Lazarus, Les Paul. You see kind of these signature guitars which are at the, whatever you want to call them, like mid-price, the budget end of the scale. And then, I don't know if you often see these guitars being played. You know, typically, a lot of guitarists can play more or less whatever they want. And when Joe Bonamassa chooses to play a guitar out live, isn't it most of the time one of his many kind of vintage, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars Les Pauls or whatever? I think that is often the case. I mean, how often does he actually get out an Epiphone Lazarus? I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you've seen him using them often at all. Now, there's somewhat of a scandal with this one as well. So Larry Carlton, Sire Larry Carltons, there are a bunch of these in the range, right? So you've got the Strat type, which I've never seen him play. You've got the Les Paul type, which again, I've never seen him actually play. And then you've got the Telecaster type, which I've never seen him play. And you've also got this one here, which is obviously the 335 type, and I guess what has become Larry Carlton's, you know, known as Mr. 335. Now, this one you see him play fairly often recently. So you've seen him on Corey Wong's channel. He used one for this. You see him in lots of live videos, kind of like concerts, using one. I did find one playing with Kirk Fletcher where he was actually playing a Gibson. Now, I'm not sure if that's one of Kirk's guitars or one of his guitars. He's also playing a Morgan amp, which is not his normal choice as far as I'm aware. But so it does seem that he really does use these ones. Now, I don't know what that means about the others. So I just wanted to kind of pick these up and sort of reevaluate. So this is one that I have kind of out of its case and on the shelf, that's not the word, and like lent up or on the stand, that's the word, quite a lot of the time. So I picked this one up, you know, and I sort of walk it around the house and play it. This one, I think I rate very highly, and it has the chunkiest neck. So this has like a full kind of C feel to it, quite a chunky neck for sure. Really nice round feel in the hands, and as all of the Sire guitars, nicely rounded fretboard edges. This one's not heavy, and not super light either. I think it's like £9 something, or is it £8 something? I'll go and weigh it. Finishing is nice, but yeah, this is the type of guitar that you see Larry Carlton actually playing. Of course, he has the different finish, but presumably that would be kind of a stock guitar, unless you believe that these players get kind of preferential treatment and play specially tweaked guitars, which is not outside of the realm of possibility either, is it? The cheapest area of these guitars, I'd say, looking wise, is probably the nuts. Now, they play absolutely fine, and I've not really had an issue with the intonation or anything, but I'd say that is the area which possibly could do with some more attention. And yeah, basically this is pretty much like a 335, isn't it? There's not really much deviation from the Gibson design. You even see some of the older Gibson designs have these slightly thinner horns, right? There is a deviation from Larry's signature Gibson, which has a slim taper neck. This definitely is not what I would call a slim neck. I'd call this medium to thick. The S-Type, which I've never seen him play, and the T-Type seem to both borrow heavily from Sire. Now, Sire make what I think look like relatively classic instruments, but they actually have quite a lot of deviation from the kind of Fender norm. Certainly this kind of thing here with the improved neck access and the kind of slanted neck joint, the 2-point trem thing. So yeah, I wouldn't say this is like a classic Stratocaster, more of a super Strat feel, and the pickups are not particularly vintage voiced. Anyway, you know, it's sort of a modern take on a Strat, so don't be thinking it's like vintage Strat. It's definitely more of a Super Strat feel. So something like an Ibanez AZ, something like a Schecter Nick Johnson. You know, you've got locking stuff, you've got improved neck access, essentially like a Sire but built in the Far East, right? Do we still call it the Far East? Probably not. But a cool instrument, roasted neck and glossy fretboard, which I've talked about before. A slightly odd choice, but it kind of works as a guitar. The pickups I wouldn't rave about, but they're not immediately problematic either. So yeah, I think to me, it kind of screams out to be like considered alongside sort of the Mexican Stratocaster, some of those options, the PRS Silver Sky, you know, these sorts of guitars, you know, not necessarily competing with Sire or higher end Fenders, but a really good option in that kind of lower price bracket. A step up I'd suggest from something like a Squire. Some really good kind of starting point specs. But not really a vintage Strat type. I think the one that has impressed me the most, and just getting it out again today really confirmed that for me. We got all the same kind of issues finishing wise. So these Sires tend not to be finished perfectly. You might have some marks in the binding or something like that. You know, nothing major, like just little things that kind of give it away that it's not a super expensive instrument. And again, like the nut is cut a little high and maybe it's kind of square edges and stuff like that, but nothing that's really a deal breaker. On this one though, we've got some real improvements, I think, to the Les Paul. So we've got this really great upper neck joint access, as well as having like a matte finish on the neck, which I really like. So this one as well has like a bit of a slimmer feel to the neck. I would say this probably is a bit more like a slim taper, certainly way slimmer than the ES335, and sort of plays quite fast and has sort of a wide-ish feel to the fretboard, but really plays beautifully well. So this one, you know, you're going to potentially come across dodgy switches on these as well, especially if they sit in the cupboard for a while. But that, to me, I found that sort of thing across all ranges of guitars. So this one for me is actually sort of the dark horse of the Sire range, I think. And I think this to me plays a lot better than I've found the Epiphones in this kind of price range do. Let me know if you've got kind of a favourite choice of a Les Paul style guitar in this kind of price range. But this one for me might be the one that I would point at and say, yeah, this to me stands out among the Sire range as the one to get, especially if you're looking for a Les Paul. Incidentally, I'm going to be sending this up the road to my old teacher, Mr. Leyland. So this one and the ES335 I think stick out to me a little bit more than the Strat. There are, you know, quite a lot of options in that sort of Stratocaster price range, particularly things that are a bit more super Strat-y. If it was a bit more on the vintage side, you know, like a slightly thicker neck or something like that, then maybe it would stand out a bit more. But this one with its improved kind of upper fret access, a really great feeling neck in the hand, I have to say, locking tuners, has some improvements, I think, bold to say, but I do think it sort of, to me, plays really, really well and as good as a bunch of the Gibson Les Pauls that I've played. I'm going to go and weigh it, but I think it's quite a light example as well. So this would be the one for me that I'd say I'd take a close look at alongside the ES335 personally if I was to be considering buying any of these again. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Have you been happy with your Sire guitars or unhappy? I'm not sponsored by them or anything, so I'm happy for you to share your experience in the comments, and it'd be great if you would. Feel free to like and subscribe.
Oh, I guess I should also say, you know, I've compared these instruments in most cases to, you know, their kind of real life counterparts. So the Les Paul version, I think, actually stacks up really nicely to a real Gibson Les Paul. I played quite a couple of examples of those. And playability wise, I think I even preferred the Sire. Sound wise, you know, you could change out those pickups if you really have to have it sounding exactly like a Gibson Les Paul. But yeah, that stacks up really nicely and is a little bit within the lighter range of a Gibson Les Paul. Compared to a real Sire, I wouldn't say this necessarily competes too well playing wise. With that really good example of the Sire that I played, but you know, for me it sits in there easily with like an Ibanez AZ kind of, that kind of playability, and yeah, does the job. And for me, what kind of shocked me when I came back to this guitar after playing the Gibson faded ES335 was how well this stacks up with that. Now, in all cases, I wouldn't say that these Sire guitars would knock those Premier examples off of the leaderboard or off of your playing kind of surface. I don't know what I'm talking about at this point, but I would say, you know, playability wise, I think the Sires really do stand up very well to well priced instruments. Like all of these are kind of off the shelf guitars, except for that green one which was made for me, but this one, yeah, I played it alongside the Greco and alongside the Gibson, and it held its own in a really pleasing kind of way. Lovely feeling neck. So yeah, for the money, I think the Sires are really good guitars, and they might be really good guitars anyway, so let me know your thoughts in the comments. The only thing that when you look up at them close, to me they don't really look like the most expensive guitars. So, you know, if you do look at some Gibsons up close, not all of them of course, but some of them are finished really well. I'd say the Sires, you know, the fit and finish is where they're a little bit more on the budget side than in terms of actual playability and that sort of stuff.